So if you're a photographer and you're moving over into the video world, you'll kind of notice that a lot of the tools that you're used to in photography, like the histogram, are missing. They really aren't there. They aren't very widely used. And there's some other tools that have taken their place. So I'm just going to go over a few of these basic tools and how to read them. So the tool I'm going to be going over is called the Waveform Tool. Now, the Waveform Tool, it's very, very simple, but it kind of might be a little bit confusing the first time you see it, and you might not even understand what you're looking at exactly. Now, it's very, very similar to the histogram in the sense that it's showing the concentration of exposures throughout the image, but it's set up a little bit differently. So with the histogram, it shows you the dark parts of the image on the left and the bright parts of the image on the right, and every shade of gray in between. And it shows you the concentration by showing you the hills and valleys, depending on how many pixels in the image are either that shade of dark or that shade of light. Now, the waveform works in a very similar way where it does show you the concentrations of bright and dark, but instead of showing you the dark parts of the image on the left and the bright parts on the right, it will actually show you the x-axis is the same as the x-axis on your video. So the pixels on the left are still on the left, the pixels on the right are still on the right, but instead of having the concentration be kind of like hills and valleys, the brighter this pixel is, the higher up it'll be, the darker this pixel is, the further down it will be. Now, if this is a little bit confusing, I'm going to be going over a video clip right here that will make it very, very clear exactly what I'm saying, and a few other clips so you can kind of get an idea of what the waveform looks like in different circumstances. So I have the clip open in Final Cut Pro 10, and just to let you know, this tool that I'm going to be showing you, it is available in every single video editor out there. It's a very, very basic tool. And just to kind of show you where it's located in Final Cut Pro X, it's up here in View, and then Show Video Scopes. Now, there are a ton of different views that you can see in this, and you see there's actually a histogram here, and it's exactly what you would expect. You have pure black is right here at the point that says 0, and then pure white is at the part that says 100, and then this is exactly what you would expect from an image like this. You have the dark parts of the image right here showing up in this portion, and then you have the bright parts in this portion right here. But there are a few other available settings for this, and the one that we're going to be talking about is waveform. Now, with the waveform, there are a few different useful settings for this, one being the Rgb Parade, and basically what it's doing is it's showing you the red, green, and blue channels separately. Now, this might be useful for you if you're doing some, grading or color correction of your image, and you kind of want to see the different channels separately to kind of get an idea of how the balance between the different channels is. So the one that we're going to be working with is the Rgb Overlay, where it has all three channels overlaid onto each other, which is good for both getting the exposure corrected and also kind of getting a nice color balance for the image. And like I was saying before, you have the image over here, and this is the waveform on this side. Now, the x-axis, so left and right, is exactly representative of the left and right on this side. So you see the split between the bright side of the wall and the dark side of the wall over here. That is where you would see the split over here, right in the middle. So the right side is lower. Now, the very bottom is pure black. You see this 0 right here? That is where pure black is on the image, and then the 100 is where pure white is on the image. So you see the 100, there's some pixels that are peaking above that 100 mark. So there's some parts of the image that are actually too bright so that we can kind of correct that later. But I'm gonna play this clip just so you see the image actually moving in real time when I shift from left to right. So you see the image moving there from left to right, and it's represented by the waveform over here. So you see the center of the image moving left, the center moving right, and you see the split coming. And then here's a good interesting spot to stop at. You see the wall ending right here where it has the steep drop off. So this is representative of the steep drop off, and you have the dark bushes over here, which is representative right here. And then you see the little bit of blue poking out. You can obviously see that that is representative of the kind of blue shade on the wall right here. And then it immediately pops up showing that you have a bright surface right here. So here's another interesting example of how you can be using the waveform. Now, you'll notice this shot looks very gray. Maybe you might describe it as sort of a milky looking image. And the reason why is this was shot on a color profile or a picture profile on my Sony called S-Log. Now, Log is a picture profile that's available on a lot of current DSLRs, a lot of cameras, and basically just creates a flat image. And the benefit of doing this is that by creating the flat image, it really opens up a lot of dynamic range. So you have the bright sun on the outside and then a pure black chair on the inside, and you're still able to resolve the information of both areas. There's nothing that's completely blown out or completely crushed dark. And I'm going to show you just a simple way to deal with this S-Log footage or log footage, whatever you're depending with or whatever you're working with. And it's very simple. Now keep in mind, we want to have some pure black in the image. So some of the shadows right here, some of the shadows right here and here will be pure black. So we need to keep a lookout for the bottom of the waveform hitting down here. And then when we brighten up the image, depending on how bright we want it to be touching that 100 mark, showing that it's pure white. So I'm gonna drag the exposure down, the shadows down a little bit, sorry, until it hits the bottom. So right there, it's kind of hitting the bottom, showing you that pure black has been achieved in certain areas. And then I'm just gonna be dragging this up until it hits the top. So you have this image where it's got a huge contrast difference between the outside and the inside. And just by doing a quick adjustment while looking at the waveform monitor, you're able to see that it was simple to make this adjustment just by seeing where the exposure is on certain parts of the image. Now, just to kind of finish this off a little bit, I'm just going to add a little bit of saturation, maybe a little bit of saturation of the highlights, and then, you know, we're pretty much done there. So the waveform is something that I use every single time I make one of the videos. I use it to just do a slight color correction or slight grade, and also just make sure that the exposure is correct on both my skin tones and also on the highlights and shadows in the image. Now, just to kind of once again show you how the waveform is working, I've got a dark book right here that I can hold in front of the camera, and you see the image on the waveform moving down as I move the book from left to right. Maybe it's hiding some of the highlights behind me, and you see those highlights at the far top of the waveform monitor dropping completely off. Now to contrast that, I have a white piece of paper that as I move it across the image, the waveform monitor is moving up as I move it from left to right. And you can very clearly see where the white piece of paper is affecting the waveform monitor. Now, the waveform monitor is, I would say, the very first tool that you need to learn when it comes to coloring your images or just getting the exposure corrected when you're grading your images or even just doing a simple edit, because it's something that's very easy to do, and it's also very easy to learn, but it can kind of maybe overwhelm you the very first time that you see the waveform monitor, or you might not even understand how important it is for your video. So I think I covered everything that I needed to cover about the waveform monitor. If I didn't, leave me a question down below, if there are any questions that I left unanswered, or even if you have questions for future videos, also let me know down below, because I like to do viewer requests, and any question that you may have, I will cover in a future topic video. So once again, I do want to thank you guys for watching this video. If you made it all the way to the end, subscribe, because I come out with new content every single week. So I do want to thank you for watching the whole video, and I will see you on the next one.